So I'm checking out Space Marine 2 after the Trigon update. And gone are my green Firekeeper's wrists. I mean, look at this. There's a swatch right here, but it doesn't do anything. What's even the point? Space Marine 2's customization has disappointed me yet again. We get eye lenses, but we lose wrist color. Well, greetings, Grimdark enjoyers. We're gonna try something a little different with this Homebrew Spotlight video. So excuse the lack of formality in this one. We're gonna try to do this a little more off the cuff. This is mostly for... it's a time issue, really. I'm just busy at the moment on the hobby side of things, right? So I'm really on this hobby grind with High Fleet Gengar at the moment. Building towards a, well, what you could call a thematic list build, right? So I've been putting in a bunch of hobby time on the painting side of the hobby. And I'm also working on something in the background, which I'll share on the channel a little further down the road. In any case, we're going to try and do this Homebrew Spotlight less formal, so let me know how you like it. If you do or if you don't, the input's appreciated. So, in this Homebrew Spotlight, we're featuring a custom Space Marine successor of the Blood Angels called the Steam Wardens. Big thanks for Kyle13 for sending it in. And to be honest, I think this is a real nice one. It's tasteful, it's pretty novel in its design, and the presentation is just A+, which you guys can judge as we get into it. But first, as usual, let's look into the context of the submission sent in by Kyle13. We will just tab over to it here. Right, so it says, "Hey there, what the 40k? Big fan of your videos, especially the thematic list builds, and I think it is an amazing idea of you to review subscribers' homebrew detachment rules." Well, I appreciate that. Since I have recently, a few months ago, dabbled into creating my own homebrew detachment, including the lore, of my Blood Angels successor chapter, the Steam Wardens, I figured why not submit what I came up with. Jesus, reading's hard. Excuse me, guys. I'm recording this late into the night. As you can read from the flavor text, the basic idea of the successor chapter is their way of fighting with their machines as one. I am personally a big fan of the Blood Angels, the Salamanders, men of culture, and the Iron Hands, and wanted to somehow combine them into one chapter. What came out were the Steam Wardens, a chapter focused on their love for crafting, in brackets the Blood Angel slash Salamanders, and their steam-fueled machinery, the Iron Hands. I wanted to create a force that rolls over the battlefield as one big wave of man and machine, focusing on board control. I came up with the mechanic focusing on the smoke keyword, as not only tanks, but also some infantry units bear that keyword. As you can see, I empathize on flamers, as I especially wanted to find a way to include the Blood Angels Ball Predator. Further, I wanted to turn Death Company into a playable unit without the need of Death Company only, in quotations, trying to work on their inherent weaknesses. Stratagems were inspired by the Iron Hands detachment, steam-powered furnace stratagems, as well as the Grotmus Grey Knights Hollow Grounds detachment, referring to the detachment rules. So far, I have played one game with a friend of mine, which I lost. Killing infantry wasn't a problem, but dealing with higher toughness certainly was. I hope it seems interesting enough for it to be reviewed in a video of yours. Best regards, Kyle13. Well, Kyle13, the Steam Wardens certainly are interesting. And you know what? I like an army with some weaknesses. I think it makes the game interesting. So, with the context defined, guys, we can get into the detachments proper, and you can get a look at what I'm referring to here by this A+ presentation. I mean, just look at this glorious PDF. It's almost as if it came right from a GW. Beautiful, beautiful. Flavor, text, and everything. Just A+. So I won't get into all of the flavor text, but we'll go through the detachment rules like we usually do. So the Steam Wardens, in the body of the detachment here, says the Steam Wardens approach to battle. The Steam Wardens approach battle with calculated ferocity, leveraging their industrial roots to gain an overwhelming advantage. They transform the battlefield into a choking haze of smoke and steam, deploying specialized devices to obscure their movements and disorient their enemies. So, I think that's enough flavor text. Let's get into the detachment rule. Wait, where are we? 1 second, guys. Just tabbing over with computer things. Look, this is the price of doing it live. Or recording it live, rather. Okay, so detachment rule, steam-fueled warfare. Maybe I should enhance a bit. We're recording this just straight into OBS. I think it'll alleviate the editing of the video. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so detachment rule, steam-fueled warfare. Certain areas of the battlefield are within your army's boiling mist as follows. Your deployment zone is always within your army's boiling mist. The area of the battlefield within 3 inches of one or more Adeptus Astartes smoke units from your army is within your army's boiling mist. At the start of any phase, if you control at least half the objective markers within No Man's Land until the end of that phase, No Man's Land is within your army's boiling mist. And at the start of any phase, if you control at least half of the objective markers within your opponent's deployment zone, until the end of the phase, your opponent's deployment zone is within your army's boiling mist. Right, so this is what Kyle 13 was referring to with regards to the Grotmus Grey Knights detachment. But this style of detachment structure, this kind of controlling areas of the battlefield to afflict those designated zones, No Man's Land, enemy zone, enemy deployment, your deployment, with an affect is fairly common in 40k, right? We're not breaking the ceiling here. This is totally within the realm of the game, right? And I think in that regard, it's certainly a tasteful template to make use of. And I think, if memory serves, I don't believe Space Marines proper have a detachment which uses this style of detachment rules template, right? So that's also a plus. Yeah, so it's totally fine. Totally cool with me on that front. So, as for the benefits, Adeptus Astartes units from your army gain the smoke keyword whilst within your army's boiling mist. And torrent weapons equipped by models in your army gain the devastating wounds ability when targeting your opponent's units that are within your army's boiling mist. This is very fun. Look, I like this a lot. So gaining the smoke keyword is a mild benefit, right? What does smoke do for you? Typically, we can assume it'll interact with the detachment, right? But on the whole, the smoke keyword basically opens up the smoke screen stratagem, is what it does. The core stratagem in the core rulebook, which is a potent defensive stratagem that is usually relegated to particular vehicles and units with smoke grenades. But it's a pretty creative outlet here as a detachment benefit. I like it a lot. And on top of that, torrent weapons equipped by models in your army gain devastating wounds. Look, devastating wounds, potent benefit. Torrent weapons is a very narrow, that potent benefit will apply to a very narrow use case, right? And torrent weapons have they're hemmed in by the inability to essentially control the variance as well as you can. Control the variance of dice as well as you can with hit rolls, right? Typically, you'll find torrent weapons. There's less rules across units and stratagems and detachment rules to course-correct number of shots than there are for hit rolls, to summarize it. So I don't think this is OP. Totally tasteful. I like this a lot, right? And Kyle13 included some screenshots of a Space Marine from the Steam Wardens. So look at this guy. Look at this cool Space Marine here. Got a nice orange, reddish orange, bronze, and white color scheme. Looks great. Doesn't look like any other chapter. You know, the red colors, it does lend it towards the Blood Angels. But then look at this. Look at this other picture here. Little steam-powered backpack. Well, not steam-powered, but steam creating a backpack for the Steam Wardens. I can't help but love this. This to me feels like the gold standard, I'll say, for like successor chapter, for homebrewing your successor chapter. I love this. It's certainly the gold standard for this series, which is only 3 episodes in. But look, a win's a win. A win is a win. So looking at the smoke keyword, I think... So what's interesting about the detachment rule is that, similar to the demons in the areas of the battlefield being affected by the Shadow of Chaos, greater demons have an ability, I believe, to count the area near them as being in the Shadows of Chaos, which we can see here is being emulated with smoke units, right? So it's worth looking at what units have the smoke keyword, which I have prepared from the old Waha right? So you got your dreadnoughts and various vehicles reliably serve as, your boiling mist vector, which is pretty cool, right? So it's a laundry list of vehicles, so as per the designer's intent, it's certainly going to allow you to work and leverage vehicles to key off the various other mechanics we'll get to. Gladiator Lancers here, Land Raider Redeemer is here, which now would have a very spicy, devastating Wind Flamer if firing at a target within Boiling Mist. And I think... suppressors are here too. That's surprising. Scouts. There should also be infiltrators. Yep. You got your smoke grenade units. And the Ball Predator as well. So it looks like the designer's intents are being met by the mechanics, which is a win. Well done. Well done. Where are we here? Okay, so let's go over to enhancements. On the enhancement side of things, the first we have is the Ember Veil Invocation for 10 points. Chaplain only. Once per battle at the start of any phase, the bearer can select one friendly Adeptus Astartes unit within 18 inches of and visible to it. If it does until the end of the phase, that unit is within your army's Boiling Mist. Okay, so the chaplain can... The chaplains are spiritual leaders, obviously. And because the Steam, I'm doing a bit of headcanoning here, but because Steam is so central to the Steam Wardens, go figure, I think it's a very apt choice for the chaplain to be able to harness this, to harness the Boiling Mist and basically expand it through their, their chaplain litanies, effectively. That's what the Ember Veil Invocation implies to me. And chaplains often have those censers with those burning incense that you can see on some models. I think of... I don't love the model, but New Asmodai is, I guess, a good example of this. Okay, moving on. Second enhancement, the Steam Heart Module for 15 points. Adeptus Astartes model only. Models in the bearer's unit gain the smoke keyword. So, essentially, that unit will always be able to ensure you can throw out the Boiling Mist onto an enemy unit. So you can use that unit to sort of spear tip, tag something, get close to a target you want to put into the Devastating Wound Torrent range, which I think is a fun utility piece to have in a detachment toolkit. And it would open up them for the smoke keyword as well. Like, the smoke keyword, just for the smokescreen stratagem, is a very, like, middling benefit until we get to the stratagems in this detachment, right? Because it's a good defensive tool, but it's a stratagem, so you have to pay CP for it. So I think it's totally reasonable. Excellent choice. I feel like it's very non-offensive. Doesn't feel slippery. It doesn't feel like you've slipped into overpowered rules. Oh, and you know what? The Steam Heart module. Maybe this is the Steam Heart module. You know what? It probably is. It could be. Certainly could be. I like this even more. Okay, Infernal Benediction for 20 points. Again, another chaplain only enhancement. While models in the Bear's unit are within your army's boiling mist, Adeptus Astartes smoke units from your army within the same battlefield zone as the Bear's unit are treated as being within 12 inches of one or more chaplain models. Interesting. Interesting. So, if you're in the same area of the battlefield, you're effectively in range of a chaplain, within 12-inch range of a chaplain. And as far as I can discern, looking at the chaplain datasheet, the only benefit that would yield would be the spiritual leader ability, which allows you to turn off your battle shocked status, which could be clutch, right? If you fall to battle shock and you're on an objective, and it would come down to winning the game. If you don't score that objective, that once per battle ability could be a big deal. That once per battle remove battle shock ability here could be a big deal. Is it worth 20 points though? I don't know. I don't. My gut intuition says probably not. I don't know. You guys can comment and tell me what you think on the detachment costs here. I've said it in the previous Homebrew Spotlight, but I think our community here on the YouTubes, between all of us, I'm sure we could come put together our heads and yield some pretty tasteful homebrew rules. Next we have Core Stabilizer, 25 points. And again, a chaplain model-only enhancement. So we have 3 chaplain-only enhancements here. And this one is Adeptus... the effect of this is Adeptus Astartes smoke units within 6 inches of the bearer's unit gain a 6-up Feel No Pain ability. And if that unit is already... If that unit already has a Feel No Pain ability, improve it by 1 up to a max of 4+. That's fine. That is a perfectly valid enhancement. The rest of the lot here are fairly specific, and this provides more general value, so I don't think it's... Feel No Pains are a strong mechanic to give oneself, but I don't think it's unwarranted, because like starting at a 6-up Feel No Pain isn't unreasonable. It's actually kind of rare. But I like that it's accounting for itself by having the ability to improve its role if you already have a Feel No Pain. Offhand, I don't know too many Space Marine units that have built-in Feel No Pains without the use of enhancements. I think the baby apothecary in the Infiltrator squad has one, and probably the Sanguinary Priest, which, yes, yeah, I had to look it up. The Sanguinary Priest would give a unit a 4-up Feel No Pain if he had this enhancement. And so that's pretty strong. I guess I should mention, I don't believe I read it aloud, but Kyle 13 has specified, yeah, this is a Blood Angel successor detachment, so you're allowed to use Blood Angel's units. which is why I thought I'd check. I don't know if there's any other Blood Angels units that have Feel No Pains. You know what? Probably Death Company do, off the top of my head, so that is something to consider. But again, it's one, we'll call it fairly potent enhancement out of the lot. The rest are all revolving around Boiling Mist, and Boiling Mist is providing a powerful but niche benefit that I think is reined in by the CP cost of the Smoke Screen Stratagem and Torrent weapons being what they are. All right, so let's head over to Strategems. We have the Armor of Contempt as our first stratagem. It wouldn't be a Space Marines detachment without Armor of Contempt. I hate it, but from a pursuit of tastefulness perspective, for a Space Marine detachment, I think it's the right choice. Here. So the real first enhancement here is Enveloped in Clouds. Used in your command phase, one Adeptus Astartes smoke unit from your army within range of an objective marker that you control. That objective marker is said to be within your army's Boiling Mist and remains under your control, even if you have no models within range of it until your opponent controls it at the start or end of any turn. I have nothing bad to say about this. It's like many other stratagems we've seen. Staking objectives to give them an effect is something we can see in the Death Guard's Detachment Rule from their index, and I believe it's a stratagem for the Raven Guard, which allows you to basically set up a bomb or like a trap type of, a mortal wound dealing trap type of effect. So I kind of like this design space a lot. Applying affects to objectives that remain under your control, I think it's neat, and I think it's a tasteful choice for the Steam Wardens, given what Boiling Mist is doing and how it's being abstracted in this detachment. Next, we have Engine Overload. Used in any phase, just after a vehicle model from your army with the Deadly Demise ability is destroyed, that vehicle model is the target, and you can use the stratagem on that model even though it was just destroyed, right? Do not roll a d6 to determine whether or not the mortal wounds are inflicted. For the Deadly Demise ability, instead, those mortal wounds are automatically inflicted. I don't think we see this too often. Maybe in the Iron Hands detachment, and probably like an Admech detachment. It's fairly rare, but that doesn't mean you can't use it. And it's certainly appropriate for, I think, the Steam Wardens, given what they're about. Surely the Boiling Mist could, like the machine spirits of the Steam Wardens vehicles, naturally would be affected by being in the Boiling Mist. Though that detail isn't really specified here, so I kind of just headcanoned that in there. So it doesn't exactly interact with the Boiling Mist. There's design space for it, but it's not necessary. Dealing mortal wounds are a premium, so maybe you don't want to muck around with it too much, which is fair. Keep it random. And maybe the stratagem loses efficacy if you tie it into the condition of the Boiling Mist. That is also possible. That is also a possibility. Okay, our fourth stratagem, Steam-Powered Furnace, a command phase stratagem. You choose one Adeptus Astartes smoke unit from your army. Right, so a lot of these are using the smoke keyword. Yeah, all four. 4 out of the 5 anyways. Use smoke keyword, and our Steam Heart module gives them smoke. So this Steam Heart here always makes that unit eligible, which is something to recontextualize the value, I suppose, of this enhancement. Okay, let's return to the stratagem itself. The effect is, until the start of your next command phase, improve your unit's move, tough, objective control characteristic, and charge rolls made for that unit by 1. And if it made a charge roll this turn until the end of the battle round, Add 1 to the strength characteristic of melee weapons equipped by models in that unit. So this is, to me, the first stratagem that feels as though it is reaching a bit more for some value. And that's not to say rules shouldn't. They should have efficacy, obviously. But the rest are kind of very niche and specific in how they're used, right? But this feels like a very useful, might be every turn you might use this to pump up a unit, right? And its scope isn't like you're buffing up a unit that you're buffing a unit in various stat characteristics for a particularly long period of time. Because I think the Iron Hands have a detachment like this, or don't mean to offend, the Ironstorm Spearhead detachment has a stratagem like this. But it's for Dreadnoughts or maybe Walkers only, if memory serves. So having it be on any smoke unit, which could be any unit in your Boiling Mist or the Steamheart Furnace unit, certainly opens up the candidates you would use it on. Right? Giving a whole squad of models extra OC until the end of the battle round is pretty spicy. So I don't like, but you know what, like I said, this is the first stratagem we've seen that is a bit more potent. I don't think that's bad. I think it's well within the tolerance of what the detachment is. You're well within tasteful here. The only suggestion I would say here is if you're in the bottom, if you're going second by 10th edition's rules, your command phase starting at your command phase to the end of the battle round is only half the round, whereas if you're going first, you're getting 2 turns of this benefit. So I would just start at your command phase and end in your next command phase. Wait, hold on. That is how it works. Until the start of your next command phase. Until the end of the turn, add 1 to the strength characteristic. Okay, you know what, guys? Disregard everything I said. This is fine. This is fine. I have no suggestions here. It's a potent stratagem, and it's in scope. So we have 2 reactive stratagems to close out the Steam Wardens detachment here. We have Scalding Shroud, used at the start of your opponent's movement phase. You choose a smoke unit in your army. Until the end of the phase, each time an enemy unit is set up or ends a normal advance or fallback move within 6 inches of your unit, roll 1d6, adding 2 to the result if that enemy unit ends up within your army's Boiling Mist. On a 4+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. So another way to deal mortal wounds, and this one is has a far wider use case compared to blowing up your own vehicles, which requires a bit more of a setup on your part. I don't love rolling 1 dice, adding 2 to the result for D3 mortal wounds, because you could, and it's happened, if you've played enough games of 40k, it's definitely happened where you're like, I got my special ability that requires me to roll 1 dice on a 2-up, and I roll a 1 and nothing happens. And you're like, oh, I feel really good about spending that CP. So I don't love that. And then even still, you could pass the 2-up test and still do 1 mortal wound, which is, again, I don't love. Because of that, I much prefer these types of stratagems to roll many dice, each dealing 1 mortal wound to a max of 6, like we see with grenades. However, because the context of the design is a little different though here with the stratagem, because you're using it before your opponent moves. It's at the start of their movement phase, so you're committing to this. So there is a bit of a deterrent type benefit here to the stratagem, but I don't know how much of a deterrent it is if it's only, I mean, I say only D3 mortal wounds, depending on what's moving. It could very well kill something and be a big deal, but still, if it's only D3 mortal wounds that could still fail, I don't love it, right? Because it's not every smoke unit in your army. It's just one smoke unit. And so I feel like maybe the stratagem could be opened up a bit more. I think maybe it's too soft. You guys in chat tell me, or in the comments rather, tell me if you agree or disagree with that take. Either way, I don't hate the role the stratagem has in the detachment. It's a nice reactive tool, and it's a cool use of Boiling Mist. I'm saying that right. Yeah? Boiling Mist. Okay. And the last stratagem we have is Veil of Vapor. Fight phase stratagem for 1 CP. End of your opponent's fight phase, actually. You choose an infantry smoke unit from your army, remove that unit from the battlefield, and place it into strategic reserves. So look, you're getting a bit of reactive flexibility, a bit of dynamic movement shenanigans, using your Boiling Mist to jump units around. I like it. I don't think those like movement rules make the game more interesting. Just ask any Eldar player with battle focus, right? Or anyone with a reactive move. It's a worthwhile inclusion, and it opens you up for being able to excel at the secondary side quest game when playing as the Steam Wardens. Not much else to say on the Veil of Vapor, but with that, I guess we're at the end of this Homebrew Spotlight. Again, big thanks to Kyle13 for sending it in. And look, I quite love the effort here. It feels like it warms my heart. This, to me, feels like 40k, right? Building your army, and with the way 10th edition's rules are, they leave a lot of that the creative element of the hobby wanting. So, get it, man. Go out there and get it. And like, you putting together a PDF like this, like, dude, you could slip this into a local game store and someone would think it was ripped out of a White Dwarf. This looks awesome. So A+ on the effort, and I think the rules are very tasteful. I don't think they're overpowered. There's a few spicy rules in here. Well, Dev Wounds is spicy if you really lean into Flamers, but it's very niche and it's limited by range. And this stratagem is a bit spicy, but everything else in there, in terms of from a potency perspective, I think this detachment is totally fine, and I can totally see that weakness you're speaking to in the context there with regards to fighting vehicles, because it doesn't have a lot of tools to help in that regard specifically, but I mean, maybe you just bring more anti-vehicle tools, right? Bring a few gladiator lancers and maybe you're covered. How do I usually end these videos? Let me think here, right, so everybody, thanks for tuning in to this Homebrew Spotlight. If you have a custom detachment, or a custom character, custom rule you want to share, and possibly have reviewed in this format that's a bit more off the cuff, or maybe we return to the more formal format, you can send it into the email in my on my YouTube channel's About page. Or I think you click under More, and then that expands a section, and the channel email is in there. Or I suppose an easier way to To find that email address would just be to use the data tether channel in my Discord. But with that, I think we're done here. You guys have a good rest of your weekend. Yeah, this is probably going to release on Sunday. So, live your hobby life, and I'll catch you in the next one. Well, that's a wrap on this one. If you enjoyed this video, there are buttons for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to Julius Maximus, as well as my other generous patrons and channel members. Channel members and patrons get early access to videos, as well as free access to various STL doodads. Just a little something for those who help keep the dream alive. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.